and you all may share it with whomever you like, or yeah, share it with your colleagues as appropriate. So first, let me just ask generally, are there any pressing concerns that you all have identified in terms of going live next week with your online advising? Concerns, issues? Everybody's got it. You're perfect. Oh, wow. I'm loving it. Okay. So those of you maybe who have been doing this for a while,
Hold on a second, Kim. There are some
oh,
comments and questions in there now in the chat.
thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. Okay, so question, how should we handle referrals to Cook Counseling? Are they offering virtual appointments? I would say it just so happens that Lauren and I had a meeting with Cook recently. And Lauren, do you, because I'm drawing a blank on what was said. I know that they are prepared and they have a plan in place, but the exact protocol, Lauren, what did Ellie tell us?
Yep, so Ellie did mention that they are not closing. They will remain open, but they have offered, I think, some options. I don't think they knew what those options were, though, at the time that we met them. They were still trying to figure out what that online or virtual protocol would be. I think she did also mention that once they kind of knew what that was going to be, they would send that out to campus partners, but that they were going to also offer in person, that they weren't going to close at that time.
So I think the short end of that is if you find anyone who needs a referral, refer as you normally would. And they are setting up a process to accommodate. As you were talking, Lauren, part of their issue is not the desire, but it was figuring out which technology would best meet their needs. Because Ellie mentioned to us that Zoom is not HIPAA compliant for them. That's totally the medical side of it. So that's the pieces that they were working through. There is some sort of software that was HIPAA compliant, but they were trying to secure the funding to purchase that software. Any other questions? Okay, Karen says she thinks that they now have the funding, so that would be awesome if they do. But they are, again, very prepared and ready to still provide services.
Andrew told me today, because his wife runs the family therapy program, that they're going to be using the same thing and that they were getting the same technology as what Cook was to run their therapy sessions, is what I was told.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I do know the reason that Lauren and I were meeting with Cook was because we were finally finalizing steps to get them into the Navigate platform as a referral, but have made, thank you. But we made a decision that we won't go live with that until, I'm looking at you, Lauren.
I'm just hanging out on the beach.
Right.
But I know, until
My beach is
summer.
prettier.
Until summer, which we know we won't get probably a lot of referrals in summer, but that's giving us time to get through the current situation that we're in right now, and then to provide them with training for their case managers and just the flow of how this is going to work. So
Okay.
hopefully the beginning of fall. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Linda Vick asks, any thoughts about pass-fail grading or late drops? Yes, there's something being considered right now. Trying to figure out how much I can share. The pass-fail is not garnering a lot of support because so many of the courses require students have earned a certain grade. Although a lot of institutions are using the pass-fail, across the country are using the pass-fail as their go-to. What I think we may be getting closer to is some sort of extended use of course withdrawals. But again, we're still researching some of the implications in terms of financial aid and other things. The bottom line, I guess I would say to you, is no final decisions have been made, but that there are considerations going on right now, and we know that we need to ensure that students have options. If we do go with, Zach, if we do go with the course withdrawal option, I did make it very clear I felt like they need to make that decision as soon as possible, because I believe that there may be a contingency of students who already know they plan to use a CW. And if they're going to do that, I think that would help us. On the faculty side, there would be possibly fewer students that they have to accommodate in the online platform. Does that make sense? I don't know if it's going to be hordes or not, but that's where we're at. So we are, the university is looking at something. How will tutoring be handled? Actually, after this meeting, I will send out an email from the Student Success Center, because I forgot to do it until I saw that question. They have been working fast and furiously with their tutors. In fact, I believe they are engaging in online training right now with their tutors for virtual tutoring, but we will continue to offer tutoring services as we normally do, although, of course, through virtual means. Okay, Ellington, with advisors stepping up outreach for course requests, any guidance on outreach from additional services? That's a good question, because we certainly don't want any of our students to fall between the cracks. This came up in a discussion earlier today as well. A fear that our students are going to be swamped with contact from everybody across the campus. And so as I think that through, Ellington, I would say I personally would prefer or think, and somebody else chime in because I'm certainly not the authoritative source here, that we should allow the academic outreach to take place first, so that we can target them for course requests, which is coming up and pretty pressing. And then I would say maybe a week or so after, it would be more appropriate for other additional services to do outreach. Again, that's just my initial thought. Anyone else have thoughts on that? We don't, and you know, this is a hard question because everybody wants to be helpful and everybody wants to make sure the students are served. But we do know from past history and just work that's being done across the country that sometimes students are receiving so many contacts that they don't respond to any of them. And that's what we want to avoid happening. So Lauren and I talked about one strategy that we are going to try to employ is that we are able to see all the campaigns that are in Navigate. So we're going to try to proactively pull all those campaigns and get in touch with folks to find out if they're going to continue on with those campaigns, what type of contact is involved, and some kind of way we're going to try to make that information available so you all can see who's really trying to be in contact with the students. I certainly cannot tell anyone or any department not to do outreach to students. And so you could very well convince me based on some set of particular circumstances that the information you need to share or services you need to offer need to be offered sooner than the week out. Sarah asked, are summer classes going online or is it too early to know? Too early to know. We are flying by the seat of our pants. But I think that that's going to come pretty soon. I wouldn't say that it's not being thought about. I can just tell you we're just trying to deal and focus with this term, commencement, and making those decisions, which I'm thinking we're going to cancel commencement. Any other questions? Okay, Kara, we have been waiting to start our campaigns until the new Navigate update comes out, where we can include the URL, etc. Right. Will that be coming out tomorrow, or should we just go ahead and send out our course request campaign? Lauren, that's your question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kara. So I've been checking the announcements in the Navigate platform, which everybody can check under that question mark, just because things have been pushed out, and for good reason too. Like, I think they're kind of being a little cautious of making any huge adjustments and then it impacting something else when they roll it out. So initially, that URL in the availability window, which I'll show here in just a second, just to give people an idea once we go into the campaign setup, that it would allow you to either put a phone number or any other kind of platform that you're going to use to do virtual advising in the availability itself, so you don't have to clump up everything in the special instructions box. But that was slated to first come out, I want to say on the 17th, and then it was pushed back to today, and then it says now by the end of the week. So you know, it's hard to tell, but I know they're trying really hard to make sure that once they push out this update, it doesn't, you know, interfere with anything else. You know, I would just say it's up to you. I mean, you can still put the information in your availability now without having that URL box. I think the URL box that you're referencing in your availability just makes it look a little nicer on the student side, so it's not as confusing to find the URL for your Zoom.
Awesome. Someone asked, are we suspending committees for advising strategic plan? No, we would never do that. No, we're operating business as usual. I can't speak for the chairs of each of the advising committee strategic planning members, but my particular group, we're going to continue on with our regular meetings as is, and we'll just meet virtually. Any other questions? Okay, well, one of the, oh, sorry, here are a couple. Oh, they just coming in now. Do others use their advising Google group for email communication? I always have, but I checked my group members today and my advisees weren't in there. I added them manually yesterday, then they were gone again today. Anyone have this happen or know where this is updated from? Trying to figure out if this is something recent. I have no knowledge. Anyone want to jump in? Kelly Osman says she had the same. Natasha Smith said that they stopped using it for the same reason, same issues. So Natasha, are you on? Can you talk?
Sorry, I was getting my kids squared away. Yes.
No worries, no worries. I figured since you were, do you have any additional information about it or?
The Google Groups updates nightly. And so every time you add people, if they're not officially on your Google group, it will take them away the next day. So that's why you see changes from what you did last night. As to why they're not actually on there, I have no idea. We've not been able to get actual answers to that. So we haven't used it for probably over a year now.
So who did you work with, Natasha, to get the limited answers you did get?
Oh, that was so long ago. I do not remember. I can go look and see who it was.
If you could forward any contact to me, I'd be happy to pursue it. And not that I have any of the secret answers. I'm just saying I'm at least willing to investigate and get you all a response.
Okay, I will send it your way if I can find it.
Thank you so much. Amanda says, as for the Zoom ID and availability, a URL still works. I've updated my availability. Same thing Lauren just said, I guess, right, Lauren? Thank you. Okay. Trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. Any other? Monica asks, Natasha, what do you use now?
I ran a student listing at the beginning of the semester, and we just do blind carbon copy to all of our students.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, Lauren, is there a, can we create a watch group or something and Navigate if we wanted to do that? Can you explain that?
Yep. So there's two things in Navigate that potentially could work. Is the first thing, when you sign into the homepage or the staff home or professor home, it should have a list of all students who are assigned to you in Banner. But that's only in Banner and only for those students who are currently enrolled for the term. So if you have somebody who maybe sat out this semester or something, they wouldn't be on that homepage. So that's one way that you can do it, and you can message them straight from that home page as well, which when I share my screen of Navigate here in a second, I can walk through that real quick. And then the second piece is if you have this list of students that you added to your Google group, you can put them in what's called a watch list. And the watch list is stagnant and is something that you keep updated, so you can add whoever to that list and you can take whomever off that list. And again, from there, it's easy enough to send them a message as well. Again, that would be a message that is initiated within Navigate. So it would have the Navigate and VT logos as banners or like headers or footers on the email message that goes out. They do not have to go into Navigate to read that message. It goes straight to their VT email account. So you don't have to necessarily worry about them having to go into Navigate to read any messages that you send them.
Okie dokie.
Okay, and so Jessica, when you get a copy of the message sent through Navigate, you can absolutely add yourself to that list. There's a box in there that says additional emails you would like this message sent to, and you can put in your email and you'll get the exact same copy as the students do. You're welcome.
You beat me to it. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to say is that we believe that there's going to be high traffic, just like any first day back next week. But I think it may die down pretty soon. My guess, educated guess, is that the traffic for advising will slow down thereafter, particularly once we're done with course requests. So I think it's going to be critically important for us to be much more proactive than maybe some of us have been in the past in terms of identifying special populations, if not all of our students, to keep them engaged. There is a concern that being away from campus would be detrimental to some of our students who weren't engaged in the first place. And even some of those who were engaged the physical distance may be a negative for those students. So part of our role, I think, is to keep our students engaged and making sure that they are still making appropriate progress towards graduation. So as a part of that, I wanted to challenge each of you to use our existing technology and Navigate to go ahead and set up a course request campaign. And the reason that I'm saying that is, I don't know how you all schedule your appointments, schedule your meetings and those sorts of things, but that capability does exist in Navigate and basically could just run itself once you set the campaign up. You don't have to worry about any of the schedules. You just need to focus on being available within your Zoom platform or whatever video chatting platform you choose to use. And so I have asked Lauren to walk us through that process so that folks who are not comfortable with it can become more comfortable. Before we get started, or as Lauren transitions to get ready to take that over, I just want to say to you all that there is also some concern about whether Zoom is going to be able to handle the entire world taking it over. So I encourage you, as you're developing any of your programs and services, to try to think through if there are alternative means for you to transition to if necessary. CNRE is using, where are you in here, CNRE? I can't think of the name
I
of
don't
it.
think I
Google
saw
Group?
anybody. I think they're using Google Hangout.
Thank you, that's the word. Oh, here you go,
Oh,
Dana.
there's Dana.
Thanks, Dana. They are using Google Hangouts, for example, because they feel like it's meeting their needs or whatever. I'm not here to articulate or argue for any particular platform, and any instructions that we give you for the actual deliberative advising, I think would be appropriate through any of those channels. We just know that there's a lot of support on campus, technical support and those sorts of things for Zoom. And that is the platform that has been most recently recommended. But that's up to you to decide what platform works best for you. So Lauren, without further ado.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I feel like that would be the easiest way to go about doing this. All right. So one thing that I wanted to show on here first, which hopefully you all saw that was sent out over the advising listserv, was resources for virtual advising. And the reason I bring this up is we have added or continue to add things on here as we hear about it from other advisors as well. But two of them on here, let's see here. Oh, within Zoom, how do I manage the flow of student traffic? This is referencing setting up a waiting room within Zoom. And I've had a couple other meetings like with our Navigate end user group and another training that I did with Student Success Center to get tutoring on board. Is that, you know, if you were to put out your own personal Zoom link for students to join you and, you know, let's say your meeting runs over, student shows up early to their meeting, you don't want them necessarily coming in on the back end of a student's appointment. So I would look at this link if that's Zoom is what you're going to be using to go ahead and set up that waiting room, which every single one of you came to the waiting room on this Zoom call too, because I had set that up on my settings in Zoom. So that's kind of what it would look like from the student's perspective. And there is a short video on here that we recorded and uploaded here so that you can look through that. I believe Biological Sciences was using Google Voice for those to maybe just talk and not necessarily have the video piece of it. So there is information linked here as well. And I think there is another piece on here, which I can't point it out right now, but it's on here that will take you to the Navigate website for resources there that we have also put links to, videos about how to set up availability and putting your link in there as well. The other piece that I was going to show you, so I'll get rid of this, is this immediate release that is not so immediate anymore. It will come out hopefully by the end of the week, where this was talking about putting in the URL for the URL or phone number for any appointment details. So this box is what is eventually going to show up in your availability window. So whether you add new availability or you go in and edit any current availability that you have, this will automatically show up whether you choose to put anything in there now or not. So hopefully by Friday that will be here. But again, you can still put in your Zoom or any other kind of information in the special instructions box for students. So I'm going to go over now to, well, I got too many windows open here, into Navigate and walk through an appointment campaign. A first couple of things here that we had mentioned earlier in this call is that if your students are assigned to you in Banner and are currently enrolled for the spring 2020 term, they would be listed here. You could easily select all of your students. Now, if you have multiple students, there will be a link that pops up here and says, do you want to select like all 500? You'd want to make sure you do that because by clicking this all, you're only selecting page 1 of your student list. Oh, sorry. And once you select all and go to actions, then you can send a message. Oh, and I have no students. Let's see here. As an example for a watch list, if I were to come into this watch list, it would be the same concept of selecting all the students in your list from the front. You'll see here, there's this message of selecting all 260 students. And then go to actions and send message. This is what it's going to look like. This would be your subject of the message that's being sent, the body of the email. You can attach things on here, and then this is where you could add your email address so that you see the exact same copy that students get, and this will also come to your VT email account. Now, if students were to reply to this message, it will still go to your VT email. It's no longer, like, it's not stuck in the world of Navigate, like it's just initiated in there and everything will go back and forth between your VT email. All right, so that was sending the message here. While we're here under the lists and searches section, this is where you can always create a new watch list. You can add students manually to it. You can upload an Excel file if you have that. And just an easy way, I think, to manage or send messages to a group of students. But again, you would have to manually add them and manually take them off. It is not tied to any kind of advising roster or anything. It's specifically how you want to set up that watch list. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. And Kim, if there is anything that pops up, can you just watch it for me in the chat?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so to start off with an appointment campaign, again, like Dr. Smith said, we want to proactively reach out to these students, which I have found that the appointment campaign is by far the easiest and most effective way to get students to make an appointment. Because once you kind of set everything up, which we're going to go over today, you almost can kind of set it and forget it, and then easily message the students who have not made an appointment and not keep bombarding those students who already made an appointment and followed through with emails that don't necessarily apply to them. So the first thing that you would want to do in setting up an appointment campaign is to make sure that you have availability set up for it first. On your staff home, when you go into the My Availability tab here, this is where you're going to want to set up your availability. Now, this availability is going to be specific to the services that you are offering for this appointment campaign. So this should be the same type of availability that you would have for anything else. You're just making sure that you check this campaigns box.
Lauren?
Yes, ma'am.
One quick note. Karen Watson has wrote, I'm concerned with whether the assignment of advisors in Banner is accurate. I've found that there are so many that are wrong that it makes it difficult to go by assigned advisors. And what I can say to that is you can certainly pull the list up and you can actually verify it or however you wish. But there is a mechanism, if you can explain that, Lauren, how to create the group and add and delete folks to that.
Sure, like the group that you are targeting for the appointment campaign?
Yes.
Okay, yep. Yep, we'll get there next when we find our population to start the appointment campaign. But, yep, so on this availability box here, again, selecting the dates that you are, or the days that you're available, and maybe the times or the time chunks that you're available. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to pick something here. How long is your availability active? So you have three options here. You can either do spring of 2020, which would be the dates in Banner. You could do a range of dates, which I prefer to do since I can put, specifically when it starts and when it stops, and then forever, which is forever. So I'm gonna go through here. No, I am doing something right now. Go. And then the next piece here, what type of availability is this? So again, we have these three types here, one of them being appointments, which students do have to schedule, of course, ahead of time. Drop-ins, which is walk-ins that students do not schedule ahead of time. And then campaigns, which is what we're going to want to make sure that we select on here. The reason for this is when we set up the appointment campaign, we have to have availability that is categorized as campaigns for it to pull over into your campaign, because then students are going to be able to see the specific availability that you have put in as indicated as campaigns. Okay. Now there is something to point out here too, that, you don't want to necessarily just have availability out there for campaigns. I don't know, if there are other students who may not necessarily be part of the campaign, but yet still want to make appointments with you. So you could, in essence here, do appointments and campaigns so that anybody who's part of the campaign can make an appointment during that time, as well as any non-campaign student, if for any reason you are separating different populations. And your care unit, your location, and I'm just going to use transitional advising as an example. And then here, this is where that new box would be, that you could put the URL or the phone number in, just depending on when they get that rolled out to Navigate, which is hopefully by Friday. Otherwise, you can put everything here. And you can put your specific Zoom, your personal meeting link here. And then once you save this, that all goes to the student automatically once they have completed their appointment and get a reminder.
But you can include, I'm sorry, Lauren, you can include other special instructions like please come prepared with a list of courses to discuss, or whatever special instructions you want to give them.
Correct. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, which then will show up here as currently being within the time frame of today. And so then the next thing to do is one of two things, depending on, like Karen was saying, where is your accurate advising list? So if it was this list here, you could select all of your students and go up to appointment campaign. So you're bringing all your students who are assigned from Banner here that are currently enrolled for spring and take them with you to the appointment campaign. You can also, within the appointment campaign, search for, yep.
Sorry. We had a good question. Is the default appointment time slot still 30 minutes, or can we change it?
It's all based off of your service as an individual unit.
Meaning that was Alice Noble.
So Alice, yes. So your general engineering specific constraints have been adjusted per Marlena and Natasha, and I can't remember what those are, but it's all based off of general engineering as the individual service itself.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Dana. I actually, when I do my probation campaigns, I do change the time in the actual campaign to an hour, and that seems to work fine.
Yes, you're totally right, Dana. I think you should be doing this training. I was thinking of regular availability. You are correct. When you're in the appointment campaign, you can adjust the appointment default to that individual person who's making the campaign. Yep. So sorry for the confusion there. Okay, so you could bring your students from your list here. You can search them through advanced search in the campaign, which we'll look at. Or if you had that watch list that you've created of your students, then you could pull them from here as well. That I can't talk to you right now. That you could go in here. I'm so sorry. School really should just be in at this point. But this list here, if we were to go in and select all of these students and go up to actions, then same thing as the home page, we can go into appointment campaign. And it's, in a sense, bringing all these students that you have selected with you to the appointment campaign.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with these. So Carol Latimer said, so each individual service can request to change their appointment time.
Well, if you're doing an appointment campaign with that service, you as an individual can actually change your appointment default in the campaign itself.
Okay, I think she said she got it. Okay, thanks, sorry.
Okay. All right. move this chat over here so I can see what pops up. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and select appointment campaign to take this list wherever this came from, but let's just say it was my advising list to an appointment campaign. So it's automatically going to bring these 260 students to my new campaign. So here, the campaign name is anything that you want to name it. Students don't know that they are part of this well, they know they're part of a campaign, but you would want to name this something that is meaningful to you. Like if you wanted to do Fall 2020 course request campaign, just so that you knew what this campaign was, especially if you run multiple of them, then you kind of know which campaigns you're looking at. Now these next 3 drop-down menus here are going to be specifically related to your availability that you just set up as campaign. So I'm going to need to make sure that I select advising, that I select 117 Familiar Hall, and then the service of University Transitional Advising, because this is how the campaign is going to connect to the availability that I just made and checked the campaign box, so that those 2 things are connecting on the back end. The next piece here is going to be the begin date and end date. So this campaign, some people have run campaigns for a semester long, some people have run them only for a couple weeks. And in this case, you know, maybe you started on Monday and you go through the end of course request. That would be when students can make an appointment during that campaign availability. So if I made this all the way through the 7th, that maybe this is the window that I want students to be able to make an appointment during that availability I just set up. The appointment limit, this is intended for students to only be able to have, in this case, as you see here, only 1 appointment within this window. However, I feel like in the past, this has worked, that if a student was just a no-show for their appointment during this window of time, that they would not be able to make another appointment in that window. If they canceled the appointment within this window of dates, they would still be able to make an appointment with this campaign because they went in and canceled it. I don't think, and maybe I'll put this out to those who are heavy campaign users because I haven't done one in a while, but in the campaign, I don't think that this appointment limit necessarily works how it used to in the past, because Navigate said, oh, well, we thought the intention, or we've heard from campus partners, which we weren't necessarily one of them, that still wanted the student to be able to make an appointment, and so they allowed it to, if the student didn't show up, that they would still go in and be able to make an appointment. So almost like the appointment limit didn't even work as expected anymore. I'm not sure if anybody else has had different experiences with that. For those who use the campaign on a regular basis.
So this is Dana. We
Mm-hmm.
use them a lot. I don't know, because since you've been able to have the availability before campaigns and appointments, we've always run them concurrently. So where we used to try to restrict the students, now they can just make an appointment outside of the campaign at the same time. So I'm not really sure, but I think they still have to go around the campaign to make another appointment. So I think it might still be in effect, but I'm not 100%.
In the chat section, Monica Hunter has said, I use it all the time, and students definitely have to cancel their appointment. Otherwise, they get a message saying they can't schedule again. If they go in and cancel, they can reschedule.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And April Newcomer says, I had students who received notice they couldn't make an appointment anymore with the campaign after canceling one.
Okay. All right, so it looks like it's either working again, but then with April, even though they cancel their appointment ahead of time, they're still not able to make one. Is that what you were saying? Or maybe we'll wait for you to answer on that one and I'll keep going so I don't hold people over. So we'll watch for that answer. But just know that that was the intention of this appointment limit, is for how many appointments you want a student to have in this window. The next piece here is what Dana was referencing earlier. So even if your availability, regular appointment availability is set up to have a constraint of, let's say, a 30-minute default appointment, but you want to have these shorter, then you could go ahead and do 20 minutes here, and it will apply to all your campaign availability. So that does override what your regular constraints are. However, I do want to, I don't know if caution's too strong of a word, but if you do have regular appointments running alongside campaign availability, just make note of that, because then if your regular appointment settings are 30 minutes, but then your campaign settings are 20 minutes, just know that, a student could take a 30-minute appointment and then somebody take a 20-minute after, and then maybe somebody takes a 30-minute after that. Like, it could throw off sometimes, if they have different constraints. But if you just do campaign availability, then you would have no issues.
Lauren, there's a comment down here. April did not respond yet, but someone says if the appointment is deleted, they cannot choose a new one. If they cancel, they can.
Yep.
Monica says one thing to remember is that if they cancel and try to reschedule again within a certain time frame, they may not be able to do so. I have it set up that no new meetings can be made within 24 hours. So for example, if I have, and I think that's the end of it. Oh, a 3 p.m. meeting today, and they try to. April says, sorry, my screen reset and I couldn't type, of course. Haha, I misspoke. I've had that happen specifically with no-shows and deletions. Thank you, April.
Yep, because there is a difference in between actually canceling your appointment and deleting it. So canceling is the way to go for students so that it doesn't keep them from not being able to do other stuff. So, yep. Oh, my word. Okay. Okay. And then this last piece on here, slots per time, that's how many students can register for that 20-minute appointment. So of course I would probably assume that we would just keep it as one. So I'm going to go next on the next page here. So this is where I'm going to review my students. So this could be a couple things here. So if you remember, I brought those 200 and some students from a watch list that I already had. So they're already listed here, but let's say that maybe Peter already met with me via email, so I don't need to meet with him again because we've already done stuff via email prior to this campaign. I could go in here and remove Peter so that he's no longer part of this campaign and won't keep getting emails. And then I can also go down here to the bottom and add more students. And that's going to bring up the advanced search window that I could go in here and search by a specific ID number if I knew a student that I wanted to specifically add to this. As you see here, I could also look up different filters. So if you didn't want to bring, and I always say bring your students with you. If you didn't want to bring a pre-existing list that you've already gotten, like from a watch list or your roster, this is where you could search things too. But again, this is going to go back to what's in Banner. And just don't forget that Navigate does a nightly upload. So if things change today in Banner, they are not reflected in Navigate until tomorrow. So you could go through those specific things and do filters. I personally have always just brought the students with me from another list, but you could do this too. Okay, so I'm not going to add anybody else here, so I'm just going to continue. And it's going to bring me back to my review students, so they're all there because I'm not going to do anything else. And continue on to the next step. All right, so this is a great example here that now we are on the add staff section of setting up a campaign. You'll see there are a lot of people listed here within our unit because we do have a transitional advising campaign that was set up a little while ago. And so this here, you have to make sure you check your name as being the staff person who is doing this campaign. Now, if we wanted to, or if your unit wanted to do a campaign and it did not matter who the students met with, then you would go in here and select all the staff who you want to be part of that campaign. But I can't stress enough that that would mean that the students have the option to meet with any of these advisors. It does not matter if the student is assigned to that advisor in Banner or not. The campaign overrides that if you have that set up with your regular appointments. But you do have to make sure that you check yourself as being the participant. If for some reason you don't see yourself listed here, that's because your availability is not set up accurately, and you would need to go back and indicate that your availability is campaign related. Otherwise, your name will not show up here. Next. All right, so this is going to be the communication that is sent out to the students. So at the top here, this is going to be the subject of the email that is sent to them. And when they, or you can put this in here, so student's first name, this is going to pull from the student's first name that is in Navigate. And you can get rid of that if you want to, but it can be personalized because it is sending each individual student their own email. But you can change this up here. You could get rid of the first name if you don't want that here. You could do fall 2020 course request meeting, you know, change however you want to. I would make it catchy because I'm sure they're getting just as many emails as we are too. Down here is the body of the email that is sent. Please schedule your advising appointment. It'll say hello, again, their first name here. Now this email is already bringing in specifics of my availability that I have selected, like as far as appointment for university transitional advising, that's my service. It's bringing in my location here, but you can modify any of this that you want to. It's just already trying to it's trying to help you by already putting in that information into the body of the email. The one thing you do not want to get rid of is this schedule link, because this link is going to be sent to the student in their email, and it's taking them directly to your availability for this appointment campaign. If for some reason it accidentally gets deleted, all the links are down here that you can then insert back up in here. But this is what you would absolutely have to have, because that's where they're going to go in and actually schedule an individual appointment time with you. You can attach a file on here if you want to. If I don't want to make this too small, but down here at the bottom, you'll see preview email and preview landing page. This preview email, this is actually changing at the same time as I'm making changes up here, because you'll already see the topic of my email has changed because I changed it up top. As you change things up here, it's going to automatically change this down here on the bottom. And if you had a bigger screen, you'd be able to see it in real time as you type it. Then it would make changes down here. I've had over the past, I don't know, a few months when people have been using campaigns, it's like, I don't have an Andrew as part of my campaign. This is just an example. It does not mean that there's an Andrew as part of your list, so don't panic there. This is just an example of what it would look like.
10 minutes, Lauren.
I know, I'm hurrying. There's only one confirm page left. But this is where they would click on to schedule an appointment, and then they can always copy this URL as well to get to your availability. The landing page. So once they click on that schedule an appointment link in their email, this is what it is going to look like. There is this box up here that says instructions or notes for landing page. So you'll see here as I'm typing, the yellow ribbon has appeared. So if you have any instructions that you want them to be aware of, please make sure you show up for your appointment. You know, any kind of last instructions you want them to have here, or maybe you even say something, if you don't find a time that works for you, email me. I don't know. It's really kind of endless that you can put that in the yellow band there. And then it's going to show them the dates that you are available, which is the date range of your campaign. They can choose their time, and then they can put comments here if they need to, but again, that's not required. All right, and then once you have gone through this and made any changes and modifications that you want to go through, then again, a continue button here. And this is your summary page. That will tell you, okay, here's my care unit, my location, my appointment length, so on and so forth. And then once you get ready to click this send button, which I'm not going to do because then that's going to send all 259 students, which you'll see here, an individual email that was just set up in that campaign. So that's the end of it. Now, real quickly, what it looks like from an already existing campaign. You'll come to your campaign icon here and click on appointment campaigns, and let's see here, I'm going to choose an old one. So here's my spring course request advising. So this is going to tell me once I've launched it and sent the emails to students, this will tell me of my students that I had on my list. These are who made appointments, these are who have not yet made an appointment, and then reports that have been created as part of the campaign and eligible appointments. I'll come back to eligible appointments, but what I found helpful was the appointments not yet made. I could select all of these students and resend the appointment request. So I'm only sending a reminder email, which is going to be the same email that was initially sent to them, that just goes to those who have not made an appointment, which I feel like is helpful.
Lauren, we have a question. Can you make sure they choose a time that starts on the half hour, or can they choose to start at 10 minutes after?
So it's going to depend on what your appointment constraints are. Like if whatever you set up in the appointment, like let's say it was 20 minutes, then it would probably start on the hour, and then 20 minutes later, and then 20 minutes after that, if that makes sense.
But if you're scheduling it, for example, every 30 minutes.
Then it would do on the hour and half hour. Correct.
And the same with 15-minute appointments, correct? So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's sending reminders. Now you can always go back into your campaign. Like if you want to modify the email that is sent to them, you can go into edit campaign details and go back to this message details and change anything that you want to. So like if I wanted to modify this before I sent out a reminder, I could do that. But otherwise the students will get the original email that was sent to them to do the campaign. So that is campaigns in a nutshell. The eligible appointments tab that was on there, this is if you have like the example that Dana and CNRE, like if they have appointments and campaign availability at the same time for the same service, and a student made an appointment and not through the campaign, you can actually associate that appointment to the campaign so that you're not sending reminders to students who have already made an appointment of whether it was in the campaign or not.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yep.
So hopefully this doesn't look too overwhelming to anyone. And if it's your first time, I promise you that it gets much easier the more you engage with the campaigns. But I really just wanted to make sure folks were aware of this as being an amazing resource to help support you in your virtual advising environment. I'd rather you spend less of your time with managing appointments and more of your time dedicated to your students. Any last minute questions?
Well, I think I see some questions on here too, like from Christina, can campaigns hold up to 800 students? It should be able to. I'm not aware of a limit. And Jason, can you add a signature line to emails? Can you add a signature line to emails you send through Navigate? So a lot of, I think formatting disappears. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to add a signature like you do in Outlook. I think it would just be kind of typing that chunk of information down at the bottom, unfortunately. But, and then we saw Susan's about when they make the appointment.
So I really appreciate you all joining. Our intent with this, and intent is the magic word, is to try to hold these virtual town halls, advising town halls pretty often, at least once a week. just as a means of staying connected and providing whatever support you all need. Next week, of course, it's going to be busy and crazy. I've been going back and forth with whether or not to hold a town hall, but I'd rather hold it, fewer folks show up if necessary, and then we will record it and make it available to anyone who cannot join us. So don't feel pressured that you have to join in next week, and we'll let you know that information. But it is, again, just intended to share some best practices, challenges, or things that are coming up in an effort to best support you. So before I leave, I forgot all about this. I had, been trying to look for different resources for folks and came across this article. You may or may not find it useful, but the NACADA Clearinghouse has all kinds of resources. If you're not on NACADA's Facebook page, you might want to join because they're also pushing out different resources. Folks who've been doing this for a much longer time are sharing their expertise as well. Phoebe says, could you provide a list to students and us for ways to connect with all the usual services? I think the number one method of connecting students to services, I would say, would be to use the Navigate platform. Now, granted, those platforms are not, all those units are not necessarily in Canvas, but I would definitely say the majority of referrals that you would make are in the platform. That's just the easiest way, and we can guarantee that someone will follow up with the student in a very timely fashion. Otherwise, we will, I would say the most appropriate thing to do would be to check out the website of that particular department. I'll give you a good example. For the Student Success Center, students, if they are familiar with the Student Success Center, they know how to schedule an appointment through Navigate. If they're not, they would be directed to the website, which would give them the information, how to make the appointment by Navigate, or an email address or phone number to call to get a response. Does that help? And everybody is doing this differently, guys. There's no standard on campus of how that's working. Question, so if we start a campaign and give students our Zoom meeting ID, they would be able to join our, Lauren, weight room, correct? Is there a way that two advisors can pull from the same weight room?
So I am not a Zoom expert.
Where's Zach?
Yeah, this is all Zach. I mean, I'm guessing since each of us has an individual link to our own Zoom account that there's no way to really kind of pull from a general waiting room, but Zach's got the answers.
Okay, we don't have the answer to that one, seriously. But I'm going with Lauren's logic that since everyone has an individual Zoom meeting ID, that two advisors could not pull from that. Monica says, just FYI, Zoom is available in app stores and easy to put on mobile devices. Thank you, Monica. Students may find this helpful. Perhaps if you make folks co-host in the Zoom meeting, they could have the ability to pull from the same waiting room. I think they could at least be in there, but to have a conversation, I would think they would have to pull the student into their own personal Zoom meeting.
Yeah, because there's, and I don't know enough about the breakout rooms.
Oh, they do
Zoom,
have breakout rooms.
because I've done that in different other calls that we have been on. They have breakout rooms, so that might be something you'd want to explore, but I know nothing about that. So yeah.
So we will research that, team. Zach, and try to find an answer. And by the next virtual town hall, someone will be able to respond to that specific item. Another big issue that's going on, and we're running over, I promise, I say, a lot of students are reaching out to say that they have connectivity issues. I don't know if you all are aware, but we have identified someone on campus, Allie Clement, who happens to be a member of my team. Students need to reach out and share that information with her. We don't have a response just yet. She's helping students to brainstorm within their current resources. And then in the end, I don't know, we may be purchasing something for the student. We don't know, but she has been designated to receive all that information. I can tell you now, lots of places have been offering to give students free internet access or reduced cost internet access. And as of today, some folks have been reaching out to like libraries and saying, do y'all have a problem with our students parking in your parking lot and doing whatever? So they all are saying no, they don't have a problem with that. So we're trying to be creative with that, and we're trying to adjust. So if anyone has a student who has those issues, please send them to Allie Clement. I'm typing her name, and you can look her up for email address. All right, we're going over, y'all, and I didn't mean for that to happen. So everybody breathe, relax, meditate on Sunday night, and we're going to be ready to go next Monday. If anything comes up, please don't hesitate to ask. Even if you were on this Zoom and you still are struggling with the Navigate campaign system, it's better to ask and let us help clarify, because I promise you it's going to save you so much time and allow you to be so much more efficient. Okay? Everyone have a great day. Lauren, I'm gonna send you a, I'll just send you a Zoom invite.
Hold on.